All right, so let's get right into it. I think the first thing I want to start off with, and Michael, I'm going to come to you, is California. Rob, we have a lot of clips, okay? We have a lot of clips of what's going on in California.
On the PBD podcast, tensions collide as California erupts in anti-ICE protests, with Governor Gavin Newsom caught between chaos and politics. Meanwhile, billionaire George Soros and billionaire Walmart heiress Christy Walton are revealed funding nationwide unrest. And just when you thought the drama couldn't deepen, Elon Musk's public apology to President Trump shakes alliances. Let's break this down.
Yeah, it isn't slowing down. The games are not slowing down. Newsom did eventually come out and apologize. If you want to go on Twitter, Rob, and just go to the apology to a video that he came out eventually. This is, I think, 5 days later. On day one, I asked him, I said, are you going to come out and do this? This is, I think, yesterday that he came out and said this. Now watch this. We don't have to play the whole thing, just the first 30 seconds. Watch how he's finally wanting to have his people be responsible. Go ahead, Rob.
A script?
Of course he is. You can pause it right.
That's
Go back
not
a little bit,
natural.
Rob. Go back a little bit where, I'm saying it's 4 days too late. This shows you haven't moved to the center. You want these chaos. You need your next George Floyd, and continue to deflect, spin, and blame. Mike.
Newsom's delayed apology is nothing but political theater, a scripted attempt to dodge responsibility while fueling division. The callousness belies a strategy to perpetuate unrest for future political gain.
Before we go into all these other clips, there's so many of them. There's a guy that's tatted up and, looks like a tough guy explaining. I don't know if you saw this clip or not. That Worldstar posted. It's phenomenal. What's amazing about this clip when you post it, there's a sound that happens the first 3 seconds that I'm wondering what he was doing before he played this clip. Go ahead and play this clip, Rob. I don't know if you guys caught the sound. Go ahead.
Get this straight.
What was that? Go back again, Rob.
Double respect.
Let me hear. Listen.
Double respect.
Listen to this.
Let me get this straight.
So, by the way, no,
I have
pause
more
it before
important things to do. Sorry.
She's doing squats.
Go back, Rob. You know what it's like? It's like but you have to. Can you imagine? Right after he's done with his girl, the only thing he was thinking about is the riots.
Like,
Imagine how focused
that
he is.
meme. You know the meme of like, I hope he's not dreaming about cheating on me. And the guy's just like, why is Gavin Newsom letting these terrorists run?
I don't even think he was done with his lady
Do it
friend.
one more time here. Do it one more time here. Go for it, Rob.
Get this straight. Just so I could clarify it.
Let me just, okay.
You don't want to go back to Mexico. You're protesting to stay away from Mexico. But you're waving the Mexican flag and you're waving it with pride. You're waving it in the United States, the country you're trying to stay in, the country you don't want to leave. But yet you're waving the Mexican flag with pride. Okay. That seems normal to you? That seems logical? That's not stupid at all? None of that's stupid. All right. You guys are an embarrassment to the Mexican culture and to the United States culture. You guys are an embarrassment to everybody around you, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Do better.
This brutal call-out exposes the hypocrisy and identity confusion fueling these protests. A clash between cultural pride and allegiance that undercuts the legitimacy of the movement and alienates moderate voices.
All right, Michael, your thoughts on everything that's going on in California?
Beautiful. I think it's on a lot of people's minds. Obviously, 200,000 likes for that. And Newsom doesn't know which way to flop. Because he comes out and he says, Trump bringing in the National Guard is a threat to democracy, and this is the authoritarian takeover. So Newsom puts himself firmly on the side of the Mexican flags and the kefias and the ACAB and all the rest of it. Then he realized that's not playing very well. And so he's got to flip and say, no, we're arresting all of these people. Oh, these are people you were just standing with. This is after the Democrats, I don't know if you saw Brian Stelter's tweet. He said that the riots and the arson and the Molotov cocktails were a cry of hope. That's the new fiery but mostly peaceful protest. It's a cry of hope, a song of joy to burn a city down. And so there's actually a reason that Newsom has done this. You know, it's easy to say, oh, what a dummy, he doesn't know what he's doing. That's not fair. Newsom had a strategy. Newsom was a huge lib, and he let his state, at least one of his cities, burn down before all the riots broke out. And he realized, okay, this is bad. I want to be president in 2028, so I'm going to moderate. Trump won the popular vote, so what am I going to do? The best way that I can position myself to win over all those disaffected Dems who went Republican for Trump, who maybe they can come back, I'm going to pretend to be friends with Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon, and I'm going to start a podcast and look like Mr. Moderate. Okay, so he starts to do that, and then the riots force his hand, because when push comes to shove, he can either side with Trump and the Marines and the National Guard and normal people and that Mexican guy without a shirt on, all of whom understand that the rioters are bad, or he can stand with his base. And so he has to stand with his base. So great, now he's getting all the play over Kamala and Buttigieg and Whitmer and all these other people. That's fine, but he's completely unelectable, because what the deportation protest comes down to is mass deportations are a mainstream majority political issue now. Not just the bad guys with the MS-13 tattoos, mass deportations for many of the 11 to 16 million illegal aliens. So then the last thing the Democrats could do to try to salvage a political win here is they could send their protesters out to wave the American flag and not the Mexican flag. And they can't even do that. And they can't do that not just because they're dummies or something. They can't do that because it is part of their ideology and part of their base that they hate America, that America's evil, we need to abolish the colonial, white, imperial, original sin of blah, 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 whatever. So they can't do it. They can wave the rainbow flag. They can wave the terrorist rainbow flag, the one with the triangle and the brown and the black and whatever. They can wave the Mexican flag, but they can't wave the American flag. And so you look at a guy like Newsome, who is a talented politician, and you realize the guy can't move. Any way he moves, he loses.
But here's a question, though. So to me, what is kind of weird on the playbook, the page is taken out of the playbook, is his current play is the play to stay governor of California. It's not the play to become the president. Who is he winning over?
The moderate play or the radical play?
It's a radical play he's taking right now.
They're kind of getting mixed up.
But to get the moderate play is for being a president. The radical play is to stay governor of California. It doesn't make any sense.
But how do you win the primary?
How does he win the primary?
Yeah.
So if you saw, the numbers that came up, I don't know if you saw the surgeons of what happened. He officially in the last 4 days, believe it or not, in the craziest way, went from number 5 or 4 on the list to the number 1 candidate for 2020. Yeah. Did you see the surgeons? It went like boom, like this. Did you see this?
I didn't.
Numbers went like this. Newsome went to number 1 spot because Democrats like the fact that he's fighting and standing up to Trump. So on the Democratic side, they're like, look at this guy. Yeah. He's not afraid of Trump. He's not afraid of the bully. He's standing up. So Democrats, believe it or not, like it. Does that mean he can win? Here's CNN. I want to show this clip here, Rob, if you can, from CNN on what happened with trust on immigration. He looks like he needs to go
to the bathroom, bro. He can't take
Rob,
this
go ahead and play this clip. So 2020,
every week when he does this. Here he comes.
2020 to 2025, trust more on immigration, the left or right. Go for it.
Start off on the fact that immigrant citizens, immigrant voters, foreign-born voters have gone tremendously to the right on this issue in 2024 and 2025 versus where they were in 2020. Closest to or trust more in immigration. You go back to 2020. Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue by 8 points over Democrats.
Only in 4 or 5 years.
Any other group that I could find. The group of voters who became more hawkish on immigration were in fact immigrants themselves, immigrants who are registered to vote in this country.
That is wild.
How about how they feel about kind of traditionally, historically, about Donald Trump?
Yeah, so, you see this shift and you go, what is going on underneath the hood? Well, take a look, Donald Trump. You remember when he first ran back in 2016, immigrant voters were one of his weakest spots. But look at this, Trump's vote share in presidential elections among, again, immigrant citizens, those who are registered to vote. Look at this. In 2016, he got 36% of the vote. You go to 2020, 39% of the vote. Look at this. In 2024, all the way up to 47% of the vote. Some polls I looked at had him barely losing that vote. Some polls I looked at had him barely winning that vote. Again, there is no block of voters that shifted more to the right from 2020 to 2024 than immigrant voters, and Donald Trump, at least in some surveys, actually won that vote. On average, it's about equal. So there may be all this stuff right about...
Tom, why do you think that is? Why do you think, Newsome is doing what he's doing? He's taking a position of staying as the governor, but the Democrats are excited about him fighting against Trump, yet at the same time, immigrants are siding with Trump on what he's doing on immigration. The Democratic side is not looking good. The votes are going more on the Republican side on how they trust who to handle this. Why do you think this is taking place?
I have 3 quick thoughts on this. And number one, I got 2 more Minecks just last night from people that said, thank you for speaking up for the Latino community. I am in Ventura, California, and the illegal aliens come into our communities because that's the place where they try to find housing and to hide. They're not going to hide in Newport Beach. You see?
Yeah.
So they're coming into our communities. We don't want the criminal element. We don't want the ones that are bad. We are sympathetic for the people that are trying to flee the cartels. But now it creates the same thing here. So number one, the immigrants that are here are assimilating and they are appreciating the American opportunity. That's a fact, and that's what's showing up in the polls. The second point says they don't want the violence either, and they don't want it to reflect on themselves. So they're as concerned as a regular citizen is, and they're polling like regular citizens on the issue of immigration. And lastly, there's one more thing I'd ask what Michael said, and I think he's absolutely correct. Remember, the DNC, inside the DNC, they eat their young. You remember what they did in South Carolina to Bernie going back elections ago. No. J.B. Pritzker is their guy. J.B. Pritzker is being kept insulated right now. And guess what? I believe that Gavin Newsom doesn't know that the DNC is using him as a veritable suicide bomber in this. He thinks he's out there because he has no space on the chessboard to move except to the base. I agree with you 100%. He was trying to be Mr. Moderate. He was being chill. He was wearing different clothing. All this things going on. But all of a sudden he's like, oh, crap. I can't stay on that square, otherwise I'll get killed over here. So he has to go back to the base. He doesn't want to be here. And then he and Karen Bass, within 36 hours, suddenly gave Republican stump speeches on violence in the streets. And it's like, wait, what just happened? They even had to run away from their base because they saw the polls coming out, exactly what Harry Enton was talking about. Those are my thoughts.
Here's what, by the way, Newsom said about Trump. Rob, if you want to go to the Newsom clip, here's Newsom on Trump with what's going on in California. Go for it. By the way, he said the president didn't call him. I believe somebody from the president's camp showed the 2 clips of getting calls. I don't know if it's validated or not. It shows they spoke on 7th or something like that at 1:20 in the morning. You know, and people are coming back saying, well, that call never happened. This is President Trump saying that he called Gavin Newsom 1:23 in the morning. Was this fact check, Rock, by other people in Grob? Michael, did you see anything on fact checking with this one, or
I didn't, and I refuse to believe that Gavin Newsom would lie about something like this.
Oh, you know what? That's a good point. I think that's a very good, because as a noble man, he would never do such a thing.
I mean, the only thing, the question though, Pat, he saved it as Newsome. If it was really Trump, he would have put New Scum.
If you really so?
That's a good point.
I think so.
That's a good point.
But remember what Newsom said, Adam. I'm coming to you right after this.
Sure.
Rob, if you can go to that article, very interesting what he said. You have to listen to a couple of the words on what he said there. He said, this is not going to be California first. It's coming to you.
Right.
How does he know? How does he know? Axios, who's not a conservative platform, far from it, they said anti-Trump No Kings protests set for Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. If you go a little bit lower, these are the places it's coming to. This is their plan that they've put together. Go a little bit lower.
Bring it on. Bring it on, baby.
And it's talking about how this is the one that came out 3 hours ago. I want to see the one, Rob, that says how many cities it's going to and who's funding it. It's there to go right there to the bottom. Millions of people are estimated to protest in more than 1,500 cities across 50 states. The whole thing is called the No Kings. And by the way, you know who's one of the people that's funding this? If you go on ChatGPT, Rob, and ask who is funding the No Kings protest, who is funding the No Kings protest that is taking place, if you go to this one, it tells you Christy Walton is one of the names. Christy Walton is one of the Waltons. She's, I think, the poorest one because I think she's only worth $19 or $20 billion.
What a loser.
Yeah. Okay. And, you know, no to coincide with Trump's birthday plan, the military primary promoting the Waltonaires. She funded full-page paid advertisement in New York Times and regional papers, encouraging Americans to reject authoritarianism and engage in civic protest. The protests themselves are organized by the 50-50-1 movement alongside with over 100 civil liberties and pro-democracy groups. Some online chatter are saying, speculated that Walmart or billionaire George Soros were bankrolling it. There's a lot of speculation here of what's going on, but the reality of it is Newsom didn't just say they're coming to a city near you because he's a predictor. No. They've been on conference calls.
Right.
This is a plan.
Does the Waltons lady not understand that when these peaceful cries of joy come to cities all around the country, that Walmarts are going to be looted as well?
Yeah, good.
Is she not concerned about that?
Yeah.
What do you think? Which Walton is this, though?
This is
Is
Christy Walton.
is Christy Walton an executive and a decision maker at Walmart? Because I can only imagine if she's not, and imagine the other siblings who are, and this was the one that maybe she smoked pot in school and she was the party one and didn't really take life seriously and didn't like the fact that the parents were rich and, you know, it's like, it's about the people. All we care about is money. Because she owns roughly 1.9 to 2% of the company, does not hold any official role, which makes sense, or board of directors. She is a prominent shareholder. She takes no part in management decisions. Oh my, I can only imagine how furious
her brother and
other
sister
brothers
Exactly
are saying,
are.
what are you doing?
That's how you know she's funding it. She has nothing else to do.
Yeah.
No responsibility.
And can I add something to that? That's a great point too. I mean, it's just another billionaire, you know, money hiding behind activism. She's pretending it's democracy.
The undeniable role of elite money in orchestrating nationwide chaos reveals the protests are less grassroots and more a cynical political weapon with devastating consequences for communities caught in the crossfire.
But the No Kings protests are organized also by a group called Indivisible, which is founded by Ezra Levin and Leah Greenberg. They both authored a 23-page Google Doc called Practical Guide for Resisting the Trump Agenda. Some people online have claimed that they're communists, and you'll never guess who donated. And I know they mention him, but $7,600,000 to that group is George Soros. At the end,
way.
Oh my gosh.
Stop it,
at the
Vinny.
end of
Chump
all,
change,
Yeah,
man.
you think Soros is just funding all this?
And Mike, and
I thought
here's-
he was
Oh, he
clean
is.
air and
My bad.
forestry.
Yes.
And I want to ask a question, Mike. It seems to me that the majority of these events, this destruction, this chaos in America, always goes back to the money, and it's George Soros. How do we not hold that guy accountable when he is the nucleus? He's the main problem, and now obviously he's getting older, and it's going to go down to his son.
It's probably already moved down to his son. I mean, he's a huge player, obviously, and he's not the only one. I mean, I remember when the USAID thing came out, what was so shocking about it was not that we spend money on a bunch of activist nonsense, is that we would spend money, it would go to places like the Tide Center, which is ostensibly...
California's protests reveal a boiling point of political and societal conflicts. A governor caught between stoking chaos and restoring order, billionaires funding unrest under the guise of activism, and identity battles playing out on the streets. This segment lays bare the truth behind the headlines, exposing the complex layers of power, politics, and money driving America's current turbulence. Drop your take below. Where do you stand on this firestorm?